All right. So, for me, and I'm curious for those of you who are still on, sorry for the tech, we really didn't want to use Zoom because I really wanted this to be interactive. But we've had, the usual growing pains with any platform other than what we're on 6 hours a day. I'll tell you a couple of the big takeaways for me, and then I would love to hear from you guys in the chat, any of your kind of takeaways from today as well. But I'll go through each of the three kind of main content blocks today. So for Alex, frankly, that's a product that if First Round didn't build it, myself and a couple of my colleagues at CSL were talking about trying to put that together ourselves. And I think it's frankly much better from them. I would really encourage you to take advantage of the resources she was sharing. We're going to figure out a way to create a page on the CSL site with all those resources and send it to everybody who attended. But specifically, I think for a lot of your companies, signing up to be part of that Discovery Assist would be probably a really valuable thing for you to consider. On the conversation with Seth, that was just, frankly, for me, kind of just a fun excuse to reconnect with a guy that has impacted my career a lot. I thought the questions from all of you guys were great. But the thing that I just am taking away as someone who knows how hard it is to write a book is his line, writer's block is a myth. Because, man, I've written exactly one book, and I don't know if my agent tried to convince him to drop that line or not, because he keeps telling me to write another book, and I keep reminding him how hard the first book was. But that writer's block is a myth will stick with me for sure as someone who's written 20 books. And then the data science program, I would really encourage each of you guys to think about taking that data inventory, as Rebecca talked about. I think that is a great thing for you guys to consider. Lou, I think you're back. That is crystal clear. We're good. All right. So I shared a few. I asked the audience to share a couple as well in the chat, but maybe you want to share a few of your thoughts now that you're back.
Okay, maybe you can keep an eye on the chat too.
I will.
I just, in going back, I thought it was set up very nicely, but then Alex Marshall, how about that? This two-sided platform, I think you put it dual opt-in for customer discovery. To me, it's a dating service. And I think it's brilliant. It's basically sales lead generation, that 15-year database they have and what they're able to do, and to accelerate the pace of product development. I also thought you gave us a couple good references. The mom request, the talking to humans. I think we'll make those available to everybody. And I think at the end of the day, what I was impressed with is, the pre-startups, some interesting discussion around the team forming that I know our program on Thursdays really going to highlight. What a cavalcade of stars. But I think what I took away from hers was accelerating the pace of the discovery process and how they segmented the discovery process by the need of the cohort. So sprints, my understanding, were built around a particular stage in the development that 3 or 4 founders or half a dozen wanted to know for. So I think really great stuff there. Where'd we go from there? I think the 5x5 and the startups, wow. The 5x5, I thought you and Melissa nailed. Right off the bat, how's the CPG and the innovation space similar and different? And she came right back. The discovery process we've talked a lot about, spot on, but then the speed, the pace, quite different. When we worked with the Heinz food service people, the number of iterations they turned around in days, not weeks, was amazing. But then I think you came out of the 5x5 and you talked about the COVID and the CPG space, and I think you distill it down. I think she brilliantly said, look at the behavior change that's happened. And she a couple times alluded to, are the suppliers, they get it, can they catch up? But they got to get ahead. She talked about, you got to get ahead, not just catch up. So I love that. And then, of course, we had JJ, and we had some technical difficulties, just like we had here today. But that's part of the new world. We're all coming together. And I'm biased, I have to say, because I really love what she's doing there. But I looked at it as asynchronous, personalized, cheap, anytime, anywhere ability to communicate and tell your story, almost like Seth Godin was talking about it. And I would like to bring her back just to see the video myself. Yeah. And then, of course, I don't know how you pulled it off, but how about Seth's shout out to you? What motivates him? people like Sean Amorati, going to hang out with him. And I believe that. I hadn't spent that much time with him. I don't know. Let me throw it over to you. What was a couple of your takeaways with Seth?
I was saying I love the writer's block is a myth. I love that there is no creative process. You just need to create. I thought it was exactly the kind of nudge that people needed. And I think especially for this audience, right? Like each of you guys meet a lot of resistance in your organizations. We hear that all the time when you come and have our roundtables with a number of your organizations. And I just think his philosophy is great. I thought also just, it was news to me, but him having the idea for Yahoo Brickhouse when Yahoo was still in hypergrowth mode was really fascinating.
And I think in our quest to look at good examples, who's a large disruptor? Hey, Netflix 3 times, DVD all the way to making their own movies. I know we only have a couple of minutes. There was just so much. His thing on the smallest viable audience, it's never too small. And I think it's one of your philosophies. Don't look for people who like your idea, who loves it.
Yeah.
Who loves it, And then just so much more from him. The panel, I don't know if he touched on the panel, and I'm assuming that the same people that are on the phone. You talk about put it in context, huh? And what a cavalcade of people playing off each other, that balance between the customer and the Gustavo, the neural networks. I mean, my big thing is, it's not how did Pamela Peel put it? It's not the voodoo in a black box,
Right.
It's human behavior. And her and Rebecca, you talk about being in sync. Let me throw it back to you as we wind down the program.
Yeah, so I agree. I thought the data panel was big. I'm really excited about that. I'm also just, when I think about things that I'm excited about for CSL going forward that came out of today, the database, corporate startups, like I think that's a big area for us. And then the teams and organizational behavior topics, right? So we're going to talk a lot about that in week 2 of this conference, but then we're going to be talking a lot to a lot of you over the next year about that for the research and the work that we're going to continue to do at CSL. I think in the interest of, we've only got about a minute here and we want to be respectful of your time. Just want to say tomorrow is a big, big day. We'll probably say that every day, but we're starting with the CIO of all of United Healthcare and our friend Bob Evans, who may be the best interviewer that I've ever watched. And so that should be awesome. Then we're going to do 2 panels back to back, one on first customer programs with Neil Soni, who's moderating that. Neil literally wrote the book on that. Those of you who were at CSL Demo Day 2 years ago heard him talk about that. And then Joseph Cabral's moderating a panel on corporate venture capital. Joseph is a rising star in the academic community. He's at LSU right now. And I would say some of his papers on corporate venture are some of the more interesting ones I've seen. And then we're going to finish the day with Estella Wu from Bosch and then Bill Galsa from Philips, talking both about how they put this into context. And then we'll do our second 5x5 with Sally from J&J, who's part of the J Labs team. So you'll hear actually Philips and J&J twice tomorrow, but a lot around this, not innovating by yourself, but how to take a kind of platform, bring startups in, invest in startups, work with startups, and then what that view is like from the CIO seat tomorrow. So I hope you guys will all come back tomorrow at 1 Eastern for another day of the CSL Forum. Thanks, guys.